it's just hard to know what the future plan is and how we plan for the unknown. Because it almost seems like we're always planning for what just happened. You know, we get the shoe bomber, now y'all take your shoes off at TSA. You know, we have someone pass through on a northern border, all of a sudden we put a stop at that particular place for people to pass through. But we do not really, in some instances, really thinking about what this future really looks like. And I think that's where technology can really come into play. When I say chaos, I'll tell you that as the chairwoman who looks at global terrorism, looks at all maritime issues, looks at all ingress and egress into our nation, I mean, it's amazing that I sit as the person who oversees from the Congress so many technology-based issues, programs, projects, all of which, quite frankly, are so frustrating. If any of you have been in agencies where you've had to have databases and after you've spent sometimes tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions on a database that was supposed to do something, and when the end product comes, you realize it's not doing anything you really want, and many of you have seen that, then you will know the frustrations that we feel at the federal level with this. So if anybody's got the real way to do some of this, I would be more than willing to sit down and buy you a cup of coffee, because you can't buy me one after the Rules Committee finished with us. I'll give you an indication. I'm the Vice Chair of Homeland Security. I'm on the no-fly list. Yeah. Now you understand the frustrations that some of us have. I oversee things like the virtual fence at the southern border, which, of course, is completely fallen apart now. It's all technology-based, but none of it works. So we have to go back to the drawing board. I have a department that was supposed to do, I don't know if you realize this, but we wanted to see who was coming into our country and then track them to make sure they were leaving our country, because there was this thing called overstay of visas. You know, people are so angry about people coming to our country in whatever manner they do, whether they cross borders or come in through planes or come in through boats, and then they overstay their visas if they had one, and then they're just here and they're, you know, in the undocumented workforce. So we thought, okay, let's check who's coming in. We're taking all these fingerprints on everybody, getting all the rest of the countries mad. You know, some of them retaliate, like Brazil, who now, you know, said, oh, we're going to take all of your fingerprints every time one of you Americans come to our country. But let's just say that these people are coming in, we're taking their photographs, we're doing biometrics, we're taking their fingerprints, and then when they leave, we forgot about the exit piece. Why? Because it's so difficult to implement, according to Homeland Security. In fact, the last time I had them before my committee, they said, we're going to have the airlines do it for us. Now, I think checking whether somebody overstays a visa, or whether somebody should be in our country, or whether somebody has the right status in our country should be a part of what government does. We're the ones who should care about that, not have the airline do it. But that is the last push from Homeland Security. When I finally got to the bottom of it, they said, well, we just don't have any money, Congresswoman, so we're going to make the failing airlines do it for us. You know, this is what I talk about, not the right monies or the source of monies going to the right place to do the projects that, quite frankly, the Congress has indicated and has set in law to be passed for the administration to do. So to date, I think I have held, in the last 2 years that I've been this vice chair, I have held 11 subcommittee hearings just on the virtual fence, 3 or 4 on deep water, I won't go into that, U.S. visit, Western Hemispheric, the Western Hemisphere program of having Canadians and Mexicans and people from the Caribbean come into the United States and requirement of a passport. I think between them I've held something like 60 hearings between all of that, just to try to get the information about what is going on. Another specific area I think that's of concern is this whole issue of first responders. Now, I come from an area called Orange County, California, where quite frankly, we are the largest regional law enforcement entity, and I say that as entity because I believe I have 34 different cities, the counties, some state agencies, some federal agencies, harbor, etc. But between all of those, we have the largest regional interoperability of communication systems for law enforcement, fire, medical, emergency medical, and hospitals. Now, that's pretty impressive. The largest across the nation. We did it all on our own, way before 2001 ever came around. And at that time, we scrimped and shaved off of budgets every year and put forward and did a mutual aid sort of pact between all of our cities and other entities. And we spent over $100 million to achieve that. And to date, it still is the largest regional one that we have. And of course, if you look back at 9/11 and what happened on that day, one of the biggest problems we have is the lack of communication or lack of ability for communication to happen from people up, firefighters going up stairwells and police people downstairs and just people getting information back and forth to each other. So this has been a very high priority for the federal government. So high, in fact, that this year we gave out $9.6 billion worth of direct interoperable communication systems to state and local first responders. But it's just a drop in the bucket. I think that whole amount could have been spent just in the New York City area, and we might not still have interoperability. And so we're working on many different types of programs and grants, but they're very small, and they have to be matched by cities or police departments. You have to get the collaboration and the agreements, the MOUs between the different agencies together. It's been very, very difficult to do. And we have really looked at the experience in Orange County to try to help different areas try to get to that point. We did pass one significant piece of legislation since the Democrats got into control of the Congress 2 years ago. This most significant, in my opinion, was this whole recommendations that